Well, hello there! New Millennium Design here with another video from the series called Before and After, where I'll be showing you render settings for my projects. Today we will be working with this Brutalist style architecture house, and the shot we're looking for is a realistic daytime shot with some dramatic skyline in the background. So let's start by creating our base render, and straight away a copy of the same thing where we can start applying our effects. We will employ the help of Lumion style presets. We'll choose the daytime, which will select all the effects we want to use today pretty quickly. In case you're using older version of Lumion, you just have to select all these effects individually and you can still follow along. So let's start with the sun today. I would like the sun to be pointing from my left, so let's bring it around. And I like these there's shadows created by the beams on the roof in here, also shadows coming from the trees around the pool area. So I like the location of the sun as it is. Moving on to sky and clouds. I'm going to bring the high clouds first, as they are further away, as you can see them in here. And now the low clouds. They'll cover the majority of the high clouds as well, but I want to keep portions of the sky without clouds, where we can create a dramatic effect. And that by bringing the brightness, the sky brightness, down, somewhere around here. Now watch the difference. As you can see, it affected the whole scene. We lost light in the scene, so we'll have to address that with our other effects, but it created a nice contrasty and dramatic sky. So let's move on to our next effect, sharpening. This is pretty easy and straightforward. Just bring up the intensity a little bit. We'll adjust exposure as last, color correction. Now we have a lot of vegetation around here, around the model, a lot of greenery, which will affect our main model. So we need to bring the tint up to eliminate the green tint coming or reflected, being reflected by this vegetation on our main model. I want to bring the saturation down a little bit because this is pretty vibrant and it looks like oversaturated. So I'm just going to bring it down a little bit so it is not popping up too much and drawing attention away from our model. And for now, I'm pretty happy with this result. We may come back a little later on if we need to. Moving on to reflections. This is pretty straightforward. Again, select all the reflective surfaces in your model to have nice reflections in your final render. We have a couple of glass panes in here, and as well as on this other house. There we are. Just confirm. Don't forget to put the speed ray reflections on, and we're done in here. Moving on to hyperlight and skylight. These are the two effects that results you will not be able to follow in your viewer. You'll have to do a couple of test renders to see the result. I'm going to bring the amount of the hyperlight up, almost all the way up, to get some detail on my interior, because the whole portion, this main portion of the house is in the shadow, so we want to bring a little bit of detail on the interior in here. So we move on to skylight, and in here, exactly opposite, I want to bring the brightness down so it is not affected too much by the reflection from the greenery or vegetation around the house. Let's turn the planar and projected reflections on and the quality of the render to high. Moving on to shadows. This is also a very important effect. We need to bring the brightness up. As you can see, it is too dark in this area on the interior and the shadow part of the house. So let's bring it up just a tiny bit more, a little bit more of the omni shadow, and the soft shadows and fine detail shadows. Don't forget to turn them on as well. Okay, I like it the way it is right now. Chromatic aberrations, this is pretty straightforward and well set from Lumion, so we are not going to touch that one. And the last one, depth of field. I'm going to bring the amount up a little bit. As you can see the difference already in here in the foreground. Also, I want the foreground to be blurry a little more than the background. So I'm going to move the slider towards the foreground. And the focusing distance, since this is a static model, we can use the autofocus feature in here. The distance measuring, we just turn it on and now we know it's around 13 meters away from us. So we're done with the depth of field. As you can see, the foreground is a little blurry. The background, really the far background, just a little blurry, and the main portion, which is our house, also the neighboring houses, are also sharp. So let's see if we need to adjust our exposure, perhaps a little brighter. We have a lot of contrast in our scene, somewhere around there, not to overdo it. But today we're looking for those really strong shadows. Let's see the color correction, if we need to adjust the contrast, just to bring it down a little bit. Right around there. Okay, so let's have a look what we're going to get today, our final render. And as usual guys, thanks for watching, stay well and stay creative.